Now, ahead of Finance Minister's annual budget speech next week, a call is being made to increase the sin tax on liquor. The coronavirus outbreak and the subsequent lockdown regulations, which saw the suspension of liquor trading, highlighted the country's problems with alcohol as admissions to the country's trauma units dramatically decreased. One of the organisations making this plea is the Southern African Alcohol Policy Alliance. We speak to SAPA board member Professor Sue Goldstein. Is it Professor or was it Dr. Sue Goldstein?
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for having me. First of all, we want to call it a health tax rather than a sin tax, because the idea behind it is that it will decrease violence, it will decrease motor vehicle accidents and all the problems caused by alcohol. It's been shown across the world that increasing excise tax or health taxes enables poorer people to restrict their alcohol intake much more. So it's not just alcohol, it's alcohol, sugar and tobacco, which in our view all should have very high cost prices because the cost to the country is so high.
Prof, let's talk a little bit about the possibility of illicit brews. If conventional alcohol is not readily available, at least affordable prices, does it not direct a certain part of that consumer base to make an illicit or purchasing illicit brews?
Yeah, so we're not proposing, first of all, we're not proposing a ban by any means. And we're also not saying it should be priced completely out of the market. However, we are saying that there's certain elements of the market that are more affected by price. So younger people, if we just have a few additional percentage added onto the alcohol, most people will still be able to afford it, maybe a bit less, and that might be a good thing, right? But certainly amongst younger drinkers, studies since 2009 have shown that this happens. It decreases drinking amongst young people.
Are young people a part of that statistic, and as far as accidents and maybe crime is concerned?
Absolutely. It's always young people. First of all, the younger they've shown, the younger that you start drinking and drinking heavily, the more prone you are to getting really ill later in life from alcohol. But of course, we're talking about young drivers. So we're talking about people between the ages of 18 and 21, 23. And ask any insurance company, they don't insure, they charge a much higher premium for young drivers because they have these problems. So alcohol just makes it 10 times worse.
So alcohol is obviously a part of the cocktail, so to speak, of submissions that you're putting across. Now, you've called it a health tax because there are other foods, such as sugar. Care to enlighten us on what the other members of this cocktail would be and the possible impact?
So the three main ones, tobacco, sugar, and alcohol. And tobacco has had already a substantial health tax. Sugar started in 2018, only focusing on sugary sweetened beverages. And those are particularly because we all eat sugar, included, but the sugary beverages have absolutely no nutritional value. And so the point is to try and decrease that and then subsequently decrease diabetes, obesity, etc., etc. A study that was done by my colleagues at Priceless showed how many life years could be gained by just taxing these three things. So they showed that an excise rate of 60% on tobacco would result in 850,000 life years gained. 25% on beer would show a gain of 560,000 life years, and sugar-sweetened beverages a gain of over 680,000 life years. So we're talking about a lot of years of healthy living that people are gaining if these taxes are introduced.
Well, let's talk a little bit about tobacco, because we know that there are a lot of restrictions that have been placed around tobacco, certainly against smoking cigarettes over the last few years. Certainly they're no longer allowed to advertise and sponsor sports events, etc. What sort of successes have you enjoyed or has been enjoyed by some of these taxes around tobacco and cigarettes?
So the tobacco has been a huge success. It's really cut down the number of people who smoke, and it's also cut down how heavily people smoke. And so there have been massive gains in life years and in people's health, basically, since we've started introducing these measures. I think the point about alcohol is that it doesn't happen alone. You need to introduce a range of measures. So yes, excise or health tax is one of them, but then you also have to have a whole range of other methods like restricting access, closing hours being looked at, proper policing, etc., etc.
Professor, now, one of the challenges I think that in fact, one of the things I've noted that you talk about is the benefit to the fiscus on excise tax. Now, should some of these measures be implemented, what is that benefit that accrues to government, and what do we expect them to do with that sort of money that they would save or be able to bring in?
Well, it's an interesting question because Treasury doesn't ring mark money, so they won't say, well, the money that comes from sugary tax will go to health, for example. But if you look at, particularly since COVID, the hunger has increased amongst, I think it's 40% of South Africans, and high rates of children go hungry every night. So just if that money were able to go to social grants, would be a huge health benefit. I think for me, just getting that money into the fiscus, just to give you an idea of the amount, since the sugary beverage tax has been introduced, it was introduced in 2018, Treasury has collected for over 5 billion rand in this tax. So it's not insubstantial. So that's just the sugar tax. And I think that this is really, really important to keep our country going. We need education, we need food, we need all sorts of important things that keep us going and healthy.
Now, I'm going to take you back to the health benefits. I watched a commercial some time ago about a particular soft drink and the amount of sugar that was in that soft drink. What are the benefits to young people, to kids in particular, not consuming huge amounts of sugar?
Well, the problem in South Africa is really one of obesity, and we've got a massive increase in childhood obesity. And what we have found is that children tend to drink a lot of these sugary beverages. And even if you think about it, one of the high sugar beverages is fruit juice, which many people think is healthy. But this free sugar, they call it, which is in the sugary beverages, is actually just goes directly to fat. So the point is, well, it doesn't go directly to fat, but the point is it's really useless for the body and it increases obesity substantially. So if you decrease the amount that young people are drinking, you're already on your way to decreasing obesity.
Now let's take a look at things globally. Is there a country, are there other nations that we can look at where you would say that they're implementing many of these measures and are enjoying tremendous success?
Yeah, so there are many that we can look at. Some are dealing with sugary beverages, some are dealing with alcohol, some are dealing with both. So the one country that's had remarkable success around alcohol is Russia. And if you have this kind of stereotype in your head about Russians drinking vodka, it's not a good one. But in fact, what they did is they introduced a whole range of interventions, including excise tax, where they followed, they also made sure that there was a minimum amount that you paid as you used each unit of alcohol. And they also did a whole range of other interventions and cut their drinking by 40%. So it was really huge over a period of about 10 years. Other countries that have done the sugary tax include different states in the US, include Colombia, include Mexico, Chile, all very successfully.
But I'm sure you can expect to receive a huge amount of resistance from alcohol producers. I mean, they would argue that job losses potentially if they're not selling as much alcohol as they would normally do.
That is true, but there have been studies which have looked at the cost of alcohol to the country in terms of illness and accidents and healthcare, etc., lost work days and so on, compared to the positive side, which is jobs, tax, etc. And the costs outweigh the income quite substantially. So yes, they might lose jobs. I doubt it. People will continue to drink, but they might just drink less, which is what we're looking at. We don't want people to stop drinking completely. This is not our objective at all, but it's to get a different sense of people drinking, not to get drunk, but to enjoy one or two drinks at a time.
Not a dozen.
That is the least harmful way to drink.
Not a dozen drinks.
Exactly.
Professor Sue Goldstein, thank you so much for speaking to us, SAPA board member. Stay with us. When we come back, we take a look at what's happening in the world of